Okay, so let's dive right into this. Have you ever seen that neighbor, the one with a brand new Range Rover, and wondered if they're actually rich or just really good at looking the part? Well, it turns out most of us are terrible at telling the difference. In this explainer, we're going to break down why, and more importantly, how you can figure out if you're on the right track. And it all starts with a story about a simple neighborhood cookout. So picture this. A guy rolls up in a shiny $95,000 SUV. Everybody's impressed, right? Of course. Meanwhile, over by the grill is our friend David standing next to his 10-year-old Toyota Camry. But here's the secret, the thing nobody sees. David has over $1 million tucked away in index funds. He could literally retire tomorrow. The guy with the fancy car, well, he's probably just leasing it. And this, right here, is the core of the problem. We always confuse the performance of wealth with actual wealth.
So on one side, you've got the performance. It's loud, it's highly visible, and it's all designed to signal status. But on the other side, you have real wealth. It's completely invisible. And you know what? It doesn't buy you status, it buys you freedom. The entire modern economy is basically a machine built to sell you the performance of wealth, and it often comes at the direct cost of building the real thing.
Now look, this isn't just a hunch or a good story. This is what the data actually shows. Researchers have found this really shocking paradox in how we spend our money, and it reveals this massive illusion that keeps so many people trapped.
Okay, so check this out. Data from the University of Chicago is just fascinating. It shows that upper middle-class households, people doing pretty well, spend a staggering 43% of their income on things that just signal status. Positional goods, they call them. But the genuinely wealthy, people with real net worth, they only spend about 18%. Just let that sink in for a second. The people who can least afford to signal status are the ones doing it the most.
So how do you know which game you're actually playing? Well, we're about to find out. We are going to run through a 7-part wealth audit, and I want you to actually do this. So grab something to write with because you're going to score yourself. Here's the deal. If you pass 5 or more of these tests, you are, statistically speaking, wealthier than 90% of the people living in those fancy zip codes. Ready? All right, test number 1. And I'm going to warn you, this one is absolutely brutal. It's called the engine-to-equity ratio. And it's just a stark, no-nonsense measure of how much of your money is tied up in things that go down in value versus things that actually make you money while you sleep. So here's the formula. It's super simple. I want you to add up the current resale value of everything you own that has an engine. Your cars, a boat, a motorcycle, whatever. Now take that number and divide it by your total invested assets. That means your retirement accounts, your brokerage account, anything that's actually working for you. If that final number is less than 5%, you pass. Let's look at a quick example. Your neighbor, let's call him Brad, has $125,000 in cars and only $70,000 invested. His ratio is a shocking 179%. That's a massive fail. He has almost double the money in depreciating metal than he does in appreciating assets. You, on the other hand, with your reliable $12,000 car and $200,000 invested, your ratio is just 6%. You're right on the line, but you pass. And here's where it gets really interesting. It's all about the trajectory over time. So let's zoom out. Over just 3 years, Brad's flashy cars lose $40,000 in value. Poof, gone. Your car? It only loses about $3,000, but at the same time, your investments grow by $52,000, while his only grow by about $18,000. So in just 36 months, the wealth gap between you and Brad has widened by $71,000. That boring sedan of yours? It's actually a wealth-building machine in disguise. Okay, test 2. We're moving from the hard math into mindset, which is, honestly, even more important. This is all about the psychology of your spending. And we're going to talk about something called the insecurity tax. The test here is really simple. Could you walk into a room full of successful people without a single visible logo on anything you're wearing? If you feel like you need that Gucci belt or that Rolex watch just to feel like you belong, well, you're paying the insecurity tax. You're not paying a premium for better quality. You're paying a premium purely for the signal it sends to other people. And that signal? Oh, it is incredibly expensive. The average upper-middle-class consumer spends about $6,200 a year on branded luxury stuff. If they just invested that money instead, over 30 years, it would grow to over $750,000. I mean, think about that. You are literally trading retirement wealth for the ability to signal your status to total strangers. All right, on to tests 3 and 4. These are all about your financial foundation. We're measuring your actual, tangible freedom and the strategy you're using to build it day by day. So test number 3 is the passive to burn threshold. The question is pretty straightforward. Does your passive income, from investments, dividends, whatever, cover at least a quarter of your essential survival costs? Hitting this number creates a safety floor in your life that most people never, ever experience. And then there's test 4, the boredom indicator. Is your investment strategy so automated and so boring that you genuinely forget to even look at it for weeks at a time? If the answer is yes, you pass with flying colors.
I mean, here are the two approaches side by side. The fake rich treat investing like it's entertainment. They're checking it every day, they're chasing hot stocks, they're making emotional decisions. But real wealth builders, they treat investing like infrastructure. It's automated, it's boring, and it just runs quietly in the background, consistently growing. You gotta remember, boring money is what makes you rich.
All right, let's bring it home with the final 3 tests. These are really the ultimate checks on your real-world freedom, your financial flexibility, and the deep psychology behind why you spend your money.
Okay, let's break these down quickly. First, number 5, the No Power Index. Could you quit your job tomorrow and keep your exact same lifestyle for 2 full years? That is the ultimate measure of freedom. Next, number 6, the low fixed cost floor. Are your mandatory bills, your rent, your mortgage, your car payment, less than 30% of your take-home pay? This is basically your economic oxygen. And finally, number 7, this is a good one, social validation silence. Have you bought something you genuinely love recently and just not told a single soul or posted about it online? This tests whether you're buying for yourself or for an audience.
Okay, you made it through all 7 tests. Now it's time to tally up your score and, more importantly, figure out what your next move is. This is all about making that critical shift from performance to real, invisible power. So, how did you do? Be honest. If you scored 5 or higher, seriously, congratulations. You are building real, durable wealth, and you are miles ahead of most people who just look rich. But if you scored lower, please do not worry. It doesn't mean you're behind. It just means you've been optimizing for the wrong things, and that is something you can change, starting today. So here's your plan. It's simple, just 3 steps. First, analyze your score and be brutally honest about which test was your weakest area. Second, commit. Pick that one test and just make a 6-month plan to get better at it. And third, and this is maybe the most important, connect with someone who gets it, an ally, a friend, a partner, who understands that you're playing a different, quieter, and much more powerful game.
Because ultimately, the validation for this path doesn't come from likes on Instagram or impressed neighbors. It comes from your account balance. It comes from the options you have that they don't. It comes from the stress you don't feel. It is all internal. And that quiet